The call came on a Wednesday, ordinary enough that I still had coffee breath and post-it notes stuck to my sleeve. From the morning rush, I had just sunk into my desk chair when my phone lit up with a number I didn't recognize. No caller ID, no reason to answer. But I did. Hello. Is this Nora Delaney? I hesitated. Yes. This is Charles with Liberty National Bank. We're calling regarding your mortgage balance of $523,000. We've sent several notices, but I don't have a mortgage. I said, my voice sharper than I meant it to be. You must have the wrong person. A pause. Ma'am, the file we're reviewing shows your name. Date of birth and social security number. You're listed as the primary borrower. The loan was opened 3 years ago. 3 years. My mind stopped. That was the year Madeline, my younger sister, started talking about buying a house. She'd called it her fresh start, said she wanted something big enough for a family. I remembered her waving Pinterest photos across the dinner table, laughing about credit scores like they were bad jokes, Mom said. We'll figure something out. Family always finds a way, but not this way. I ended the call politely somehow and sat staring at nothing for a full minute. The hum of my laptop fan filled the silence. My palms were damp, my mouth was dry. I told myself it had to be a mistake, some kind of mix-up, a typo, maybe someone with the same name in the same state, but my gut didn't believe it. I tore through the drawer beside my bed, digging past old pay stubs and birthday cards. I found the last letter I'd gotten from Liberty, a generic flyer tossed months ago. I didn't think anything of it at the time. Now, it felt like a warning I hadn't understood. I sat on the floor of my apartment surrounded by envelopes and loose sheets, staring down at my life in pieces. I had no property, no car loan, no joint anything. My finances were simple by design, and yet someone had signed me into $500,000 of debt, and not just someone. There was only one group of people who had my full legal name, my social. My signature on paper from years of helping them fill out FAFSA forms and doctor paperwork and bank applications. My family. The thought formed before I could stop it. I didn't want to believe it. But some betrayals don't kick the door in, they just quietly turn the lock behind you. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, tracing the same thought over and over. If they had asked, would I have said yes? I didn't think so. But that wasn't the point. They never gave me the chance. By morning, I had stopped pretending it was a mistake. The pieces fit too well, the timing, the language, the silence. Madeline had been talking about her dream house just months before that mortgage date. A wraparound porch, a finished basement room for future possibilities. She was between jobs back then. Her credit was shot, but our mother said not to worry. Maddie always finds a way. Apparently, I was the way. I started pulling old documents from my file cabinet things I hadn't touched in years, old tax forms, social security copies, insurance policies I'd co-signed when Mom had surgery. There, in my own handwriting, were the keys to the kingdom. Everything someone would need to impersonate me, and I had handed them over piece by piece because I was the responsible one. The fixer, the quiet daughter who didn't make waves. I thought about the way my mother used to say it almost proudly. Nora doesn't need help. She's strong. She figures things out. That was always the trade-off Madeline got. Grace. I got silence. Growing up, it was little things. She'd forget to clean up, and it was, she's going through a phase. I'd forget, and it was, you know better. Nora, she'd crash her car, and Dad would say, that's what insurance is for. I'd ask for a used laptop, and Mom would remind me. We're not made of money. They didn't hate me. That would have been easier. They just didn't see me as someone who could break. And maybe that's why they thought it was fine signing my name, taking my credit, folding me into a lie that could have ruined my life. Maybe to them, I was strong enough to carry it, but underneath that calm exterior, something had shifted. Not rage, not revenge, clarity. I opened my laptop and requested the loan documents from the bank. The woman on the phone sounded polite, efficient, unaware that her PDF would change everything. When it arrived, I stared at the screen. There it was, page after page. My name, my birth date, my information, my signature. Except it wasn't mine. It was close. Too close. Someone had practiced, studied, maybe even traced, but they hadn't copied the hesitation in my R or the slight upward tilt in the Y of Delaney. This signature was cleaner, straighter, confident in a way mine had never been. Looking at it felt like staring at a version of myself I didn't know. A forgery that fooled the world, but not me. And the scariest part, I knew exactly who had written it. I didn't call them. I didn't text Madeline or send some shaking paragraph to my parents asking how they could do this. I didn't scream or demand, I just started collecting. Every copy of every document that tied me to them. Tax returns, medical authorizations, school loan forms I had co-signed when Dad lost his job. I went back nearly 10 years, folder by folder, building a quiet paper trail. There were so many signatures, so many little moments where I had said yes out of duty, out of love, out of habit. I had said yes when no one even asked. One by one, I printed my own records, credit reports, identity protection logs, a list of accounts under my name. I'd never owned a property, but here it was. Liberty National's full mortgage package with my name on the dotted line. Notarized, legally binding, signed, sealed, and stolen. For a while, I kept all of it on my kitchen table sorted in neat piles like I was prepping for a school project. But this wasn't school, this was survival. A friend from work, Sloan, noticed something was off. She caught me staring too long at nothing during lunch and pulled me aside. "You look like you're holding your breath," she said. I told her everything. I don't know why. Maybe because she was one of the only people who ever called to ask how are you and meant it. She didn't try to comfort me, just pulled out her phone and said, "Call this guy, he's smart, doesn't flinch at family messes." That's how I met Mr. Whitaker. He was older, ex-military maybe, with the kind of voice that didn't waste syllables. I sat across from him at a small cafe 3 blocks from my apartment. No receptionist, no elevator lobby, just him, a legal pad, and a black coffee. He flipped through my stack without a word. When he finished, he closed the folder and looked me in the eye. "You understand what this is, right?" "I think so," I said. "Fraud and identity theft," he added, "at minimum." Hearing those words aloud made something tighten in my chest. I nodded. "I don't want to destroy them. I just want this undone." "You're not destroying anyone," he said. "You're reclaiming what's yours." Over the next hour, he walked me through the steps, file a police report, notify the bank in writing, submit evidence, dispute the mortgage legally, press charges if necessary. "It's going to be long," he warned, "and it's going to burn any bridge that's left." I thought about that word burn, as if the bridge was still there to begin with, as if I hadn't already been walking alone for years. When I got home, I opened an old birthday card from a box I hadn't touched since I moved in. It was from my mom. I recognized the loopy handwriting before I even read it. "Happy 28th to our steady one. We don't say it enough, but you've always been our rock, our backup plan. We're so lucky to have you, our backup plan." It was meant to be sweet, I know that now, but all I could feel was the truth behind it. They had seen me as reliable, strong, quiet, so quiet, they thought I'd never say no. But I was done. Being the plan they used when everything else failed, now I had one of my own. Sunday came fast, too fast. I stood in front of my parents' house, the one with the white shutters and cracked driveway, gripping a folder in my purse like it might burn through the leather. I hadn't said a word to them all week. Not since I got the documents. Not since I sat in Mr. Whitaker's office and realized this wasn't just messy, it was criminal. Still, I knocked. The door opened almost instantly. My mother beamed. "Nora, sweetheart." I was just about to pull the roast out of the oven, like nothing had happened. I stepped inside. The house smelled like lemon cleaner and onions, the same way it always had. Madeline was curled up on the couch, scrolling on her phone, an empty wine glass beside her. My father sat in his recliner watching a football game, like the world hadn't shifted. No one looked at me too long. I sat quietly through dinner. Pot roast mashed potatoes, green beans with too much garlic. My mother made small talk. Madeline complained about her HOA. Dad grunted at the TV. I waited. After the dishes were cleared, I spoke. "Hey, quick, question." 3 pairs of eyes turned toward me. Mild curiosity. No tension. Just another one of Nora's practical inquiries, probably about insurance or tires. "Does anyone know anything about a mortgage with my name on it?" Silence. The kind that makes the air heavy. Madeline's shoulders tightened. My mother's smile froze mid-expression. My father cleared his throat. I didn't move, didn't blink, just waited. Finally, Mom spoke, her voice soft, like we were discussing a late bill. "Oh, honey, that's just paperwork. Maddie needed help qualifying. It's not like you're paying anything." "It's family," Madeline added, eyes still fixed on the table. "You have good credit, I don't. It's not fair if you won't help." Not fair. Like I'd been selfish for asking. Like it was normal. I looked at them and the woman who raised me, the sister I used to protect from nightmares, the father who once told me I was his calm in the storm. They didn't see what they'd done as wrong. They saw it as expected. I nodded once, slow, neutral. "Thanks for explaining," I said quietly. Madeline relaxed already, back on her phone. My father reached for the remote. My mother looked relieved, like a crisis had been smoothed over. None of them saw what had shifted. They thought I was still the same. Nora. Still the quiet one. Still safe. But I hadn't come to fight. I'd come to listen, to give them a chance, and they used it to justify the lie. The next morning, I filed the police report. The officer at the station had the look of someone who'd seen too many family cases, tired, polite, careful. When I handed him the folder I'd built with Mr. Whitaker's help, he flipped through slowly, his brow tightening with every page. "You're sure you want to move forward with this?" he asked, not out of doubt but hesitation. "If I don't," I said, "they'll just keep doing it." He nodded, stamped the papers. It was official. That afternoon, I mailed the certified letter to Liberty National. Inside was the police report, a formal dispute notice, and copies of my ID. I watched the clerk at the post office slide it into the outgoing tray like it was any other envelope, but to me, it was a severance. A quiet, final line drawn in ink. I didn't warn them. No angry phone call, no confrontation, just silence. 3 days passed, then 5, then a full week. No calls, no messages. Just the dull ache of waiting for something to break. It finally did. Friday night, just after sunset, there was a knock on my door. I peeked through the peephole and saw my mother standing outside, wrapped in her nicest coat, face tight with something between fury and fear. I opened the door but didn't step back. She didn't wait for an invitation. "How could you?" she hissed. "How dare you go to the police?" Her voice was sharp, but beneath it, I heard it. The panic. Not about me, about what it meant, about exposure. I said nothing. "I trusted you to be understanding," she continued. "Madeline needed help. Family sticks together." "No," I said softly. "Family asks, they don't steal." She blinked like the words hit harder because they were so calm. "You've ruined everything," she snapped. "Do you know how this looks?" I nearly laughed, but I didn't. I didn't ruin anything, I said. I just stopped pretending it wasn't broken. She opened her mouth to argue, but I was already closing the door. The latch clicked into place with the softest sound, but to me, it felt louder than any scream that night. Madeline called 12 times, left 4 voicemails, each one angrier than the last. I deleted them without listening. The next morning, I woke to an email from Liberty National. "We have suspended the mortgage loan pending further investigation." Attached was a formal apology. They were reviewing the notary records and the signature file. My credit score was still damaged, but the unraveling had begun. I called Mr. Whitaker. "They're taking it seriously," I said. "They usually do," he replied, "when people don't yell and instead show them the truth." He was right. I hadn't shouted. I hadn't begged. I had just stood still while the truth did its work, and somehow that was enough. In the weeks that followed, the silence around me grew thicker. No more texts. No more invitations. No more guilt-laced reminders that I should be grateful for the family I had. They didn't want to fix anything. They just wanted the version of me who kept saying yes, but she was gone. Instead, I filled my weekends with things I had forgotten I liked. Walking to the farmer's market, buying flowers for my kitchen table, sitting in the quiet with a book, and no phone ringing. I didn't want revenge. Not really. I just wanted distance and peace. And for the first time, I had both. Months passed. Spring crept in quietly, trees blooming in soft pinks and yellows like the world had decided to start fresh. Whether I was ready or not, I kept my head down, answered emails from Mr. Whitaker, signed documents, checked my credit report like it was a weather forecast I didn't trust. The case was still open. The damage was still there, but something inside me had settled. I spent my weekends in motion, walking trails, trying pottery at the community center, volunteering at the library on Saturdays. Nothing dramatic, just mine, hours that belonged to no one else. One morning, I stood behind my booth at a local artisan fair, surrounded by mismatched mugs and bowls I had shaped with unsure hands. A woman picked up a piece labeled Reclamation, a cup slightly off-center, smooth in some places, imperfect in others. She turned it over in her palm. "Why that name?" I shrugged. "Because it wasn't supposed to exist, but it does." She smiled, paid in cash, and walked away. That night, I sat on my balcony with a cup of tea and the first real quiet I'd earned in years. Not the silence of being ignored, but the silence of being unclaimed. That was when I saw them. My mother, my father, and Madeline standing at the edge of the parking lot near my apartment, like they weren't sure whether to come closer or walk away. They looked smaller than I remembered. Madeline's makeup was smudged. My father's shirt was wrinkled untucked. My mother clutched her purse like it was the only solid thing she had left. I walked down the stairs slowly, not rushing, not hiding. When they saw me, they froze. "Nora," my mother started, voice trembling. "We made mistakes, but we're still family." Madeline stepped forward. "I just need help. Just for a little while. Please don't shut us out." There was no fire in me anymore, no anger, just a deep, still quiet that came from knowing they weren't here because they loved me. They were here because they needed me again. I set down my bag and looked at them. Each of them. Really looked. "I hope," I said carefully, "you one day understand what real family means." They didn't interrupt, but it's not something you can steal or fake or expect when it's convenient. I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out a manila envelope. Inside was a printed copy of the forged mortgage document, my name. Their signatures, a red stamp across the front that simply read, "Void." Tucked in behind it was something else, a birthday card from years ago, the one that said, "You've always been our backup plan." I handed the envelope to my mother. Her hands shook as she took it. "I'm not angry," I said. "Not anymore." She opened her mouth to speak, but I didn't wait. "I'm finally free," I said, "and I'm not coming back." Then I turned and walked away. The sound of my footsteps on the stairs felt heavier than any argument I could have had. I didn't look back. When I reached the top landing, I paused. The wind lifted the edge of my coat. The sun was starting to set, casting long shadows across the parking lot. I whispered, not to them, but to myself. Sometimes walking away is the loudest thing you'll ever say, and I meant it. They used my name like it belonged to them, but I walked away. No screaming, no warning, just silence they couldn't ignore. If you've ever been treated like the backup plan, you'll understand why. I never looked back. Subscribe if you're done being quiet. Some truths aren't told to be forgiven, just remembered.